Hello, my name's Roxanne and I'm the Young Norfolk Arts Visual Arts producer. A very warm welcome to you from my living room and the living room of my colleagues to your living room for the very first virtual art workshop we have ever run in our very first virtual exhibition. So what you're about to see are works created by young people across the county who sent them in to us. They've been judged by a young panel of our collective, and then we built them a gallery online. I didn't do it. The amazing Chris did it, and you might hear him behind the scenes today. We're going to hear him. You probably won't hear him, but never fear. He'll be there doing the technicals so that you can see all the wonderful goodies you're about to see. So here to guide us around the gallery space today is Beth Gaffney. She's one of our collective members. You'll be getting a tour from her. And after the tour, after a short interview from one of our artists, you'll be invited to join Ian Brownlie, a professional artist, who will be thinking about a lot of the portraits that were sent to us. We had a great deal of portraits sent in, and he'll be helping you make your own portrait boat. Have you ever made a portrait boat? Me either. Stay tuned and we will do it together. So I would like to say a massive thank you to the collective who curated this crazy space you're about to see. Some of you may have visited it online during this weekend of YNAF 2020, our first virtual festival. You may have been to some of our workshops, but I'm going to hand you over now to Beth. I should say also that if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, do it in the space below and we'll be addressing those later on in the workshop. So over to you, Beth.
Hi, thank you, Roxanne, Chris, and everybody else at Young Norfolk Arts for helping us and your incredible support in designing this exhibition. My name's Beth. I joined Young Norfolk Arts Collective in January after moving back to Norwich after completing my Masters in Museum Studies. So welcome to our exhibition. Our exhibition is called No Space, Every Place, and it brings together young artists aged 11 to 25 from across Norfolk. First planned for the Undercroft, No Space, Every Place is an interactive digital experience as a result of COVID-19 lockdown. The young artists capture their worlds in lockdown, both physical and internal, and open up new possibilities for relating to the world around us. Each member of the collective then shows artworks to present in the exhibition that moved them. And because we're from different backgrounds, have different experiences, characteristics, and interests, the exhibition is diverse in subject matter and mediums. We've grouped the works into 3 rooms, as you can see: angst, hopes, and dreams. And we've worked with the designer, Chris, to create the architecture and furnishings, even choosing the colours on the walls and the heights of the ceilings. And we're putting this physical material to work to engage your senses, feelings, and emotions, and bring you on a journey that we hope will unfold as we navigate through the space. So first of all, we'll go to the Angst Room. As you enter the first room, your heart might begin to beat faster, your breath quickening, or you feel butterflies in your stomach. The theme of this room is angst. Angst is a paralyzing emotional state. When you feel angst, you might feel anxious, scared, confused, or threatened for no specific reason. We chose the colors of the walls to be red, because this is a commanding color and we associate it with danger or unsettling emotions. So my favorite artwork in this room is by Taryn Everdeen, which is just a photograph there, Chris. Taryn Everdeen is a photographer and videographer in Norfolk. This photograph is called Plurality of Self. Many aspects of our identity change throughout our lives, and our identities can influence the decisions we make. For example, as you can see in the photograph, she's adopted different fashions and different interests, like reading a book or playing guitar. And our identities also influence how we perceive ourselves or how we feel we're perceived by others. And this photograph gives us the impression that Taryn perhaps is not only avoiding herself, but also us. For me, when I look at the photograph, I can see that her bodies are angled away from each other. She's also in a private space in her living room, and she's denying us much eye contact, so it kind of feels like we're intruding into her space. So after the Angst Room, we'll walk down into the Dream Room. Do you notice the twisting and curving walls? The bench in the centre? Surrealists are a group of artists who thought that dreaming and painting were closely connected. The artists in this space invite you into the unknown. My favourite artwork in this room is by 21-year-old fine art student Rebecca Foster Clark. For me, there seems to be a tension between the past and the future, between the empowering and alienating effects of technology. The colours and the geometric shapes give this painting a fun, retro feel, while when I look at the eyes, they seem shiny or perhaps glazed over, as if they can't focus. And then from here, we'll walk towards the Hope Room. This is a space which we hope you can breathe in. The soothing blue walls express openness, reminding us of the sea and the sky. Perhaps you could take a look at the ceiling. Hope can mean anything you want it to. It's a strength that helps people overcome adversity. You may find signs of hope in nature or in the people that surround you. And the artworks in this room reflect this. My favourite artwork in this room is by Boo Green. She carefully folded the photographs she took of her garden during lockdown into origami flowers. Precision is key here. We could hold these delicate small flowers in the palm of our hands. This action might encourage us to slow down and savor what we'd otherwise glimpse at a fleeting moment, helping to heal the divide between us humans and the nature that surrounds us. Through creating this exhibition, I've learned how important collaboration and teamwork are in the creative industry. And we've worked with so many different types of professionals to create this digital exhibition, including artists, writers, designers, marketing professionals. We're now going to hear young collective member Nell interviewing Lucy, who won the exhibition competition for her animation Perceiving.
Hi, so I'm with Lucy Guy, and she did a film called Perceiving, which is one of my favourite pieces from the exhibition. So we're doing a little interview here today. And yeah, so hi Lucy, can you say a little bit about yourself, like how old are you and where you're from, what you're up to at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Lucy Guy, I'm 22. I'm originally from London, but I came to Norwich to go to university, and I've just graduated from University of East Anglia with a degree in English literature.
So for this piece, Lucy did a film. Can you describe the film for obviously people that can't see it in a moment, Lucy, and like your intention behind the piece?
Yeah, of course. So it's a kind of abstract, dreamlike horror. It's quite eerie and it's quite sort of nebulous and ambiguous. And basically I made it because partly the reason why I made it is because I usually make things that are like very happy, very colourful, bright, you know, just lots of like, just basically the complete opposite of the film I made actually. Part of the reason for making it was that I wanted to kind of challenge myself and see, okay, well, what's the opposite of what I usually make? Well, it's a horror movie. So I thought I'd try making one. I love watching horror movies myself. It was inspired by a phenomenon called Alice in Wonderland syndrome, and that's a quite common perception to feel when you're just falling asleep or when you're sleep deprived, and it's a kind of hallucination of perception rather than sight. So you can feel as though things are much, much bigger than they are, or very, very, very small, just like Alice in Wonderland, hence the name. And I really wanted to make a film about that experience, and I started sort of thinking about it in November, sort of around that time last year. And then obviously with the coronavirus and everything that's happening in the world, it was quite easy to tap into that feeling of kind of anxiety and horror. And I saw this kind of parallel between the horror of scale that you feel with Alice in Wonderland syndrome and the kind of abstract and kind of far-reaching horror of kind of what's happening in the world now.
Oh, that's so interesting. That really did translate into what you did. When I watched it, I thought, you know, at the beginning, oh, this seems like a sweet animation, so I'm going to bed, and you do feel like you're in the mind of the character, and then it all starts to warp and twist, and it's really, really stunning, I think. So what medium do you specialise in, Lucy, and why? Is it film?
Well, it's funny because so I actually originally went to art school to do illustration, then I dropped out, but for the longest time I wanted to be a children's book illustrator, so I was drawing. I make a lot of collages. I really like texture and paper, but I really do a bit of everything. So I sew, I play guitar, I sing, I illustrate, things like that. And it was at some point last year I thought, oh, you know, I'll keep animating a girl, try making a film. And usually I just do things like a month at a time. So I thought, oh, it's film month, you know, and then that turned into film 2 months, and that turned into film year. And so we're kind of here. And I think what I really love about film is you kind of have to do everything. So it's not just drawing, it's kind of, you know, storyboarding, sometimes voice acting, sound design. Sometimes I write music for my films, and I just love that kind of creative problem solving and that kind of idea of doing everything yourself. I really like that.
Oh wow, that's so interesting that it came from just a decision, oh, I'll just give this a go, and then it's something that you really enjoyed. That's really lovely. Final question, what is your reason, or why do you enjoy being such creative so much?
I think, as I said before, maybe the problem solving aspect. I really like thinking about things, and there's just something about creating that I just really like kind of creative problem solving. And also as well, with the films I usually make, I have like a cast of characters who are obviously not, you know, for horror movies, they're kind of characters that I draw quite a lot, and I feel like with film and with my art I'm kind of bringing them alive a bit, and so that's how I kind of draw them and keep them alive. I quite like that.
Yeah, oh, that's so lovely. Well, thank you so much, Lucy. You can find Lucy's film Perceiving on YouTube, along with her other videos at her channel, which is just Lucy Guy. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much to Beth for her tour, and to Nell and Lucy for their chat about her wonderful animation there. And I have to say, it's really been such a pleasure, first of all, seeing all those works pour in, because, you know, when lockdown happened and we were supposed to do a live exhibition in real time, as Beth said, in the Market Undercroft in Norwich, we weren't sure whether people would submit work. We weren't sure whether they were in that sort of space. So we took a chance. We put a call out to young people, and we got 146 entries individually. So it's mind-blowing, and it's brought such joy to us to sift through them and to celebrate them. It's been really uplifting, and then to create this space with designer Chris and with the team of curators has been such a dream. And for me, who works in museums and galleries as a day job usually in real life, when the real world is open, and it's slowly opening now, it's been a total dream to be able to do that. So without further ado, we will begin to hand over to Ian, who is a professional artist who also works in museums and galleries in real life. Ian is a textile artist, he's a musician, he's a man of many talents, and he's going to be here, as I said, to celebrate so many of those portraits who came in that were submitted to the exhibition, and to help you make a portrait of your own and then turn it into a boat. Ian, tell us more about it.
Okay then, hi everyone, and thank you for letting me wander around your exhibition. The quality of the work has been amazing, and I'm slightly in awe. As someone who tends to bish bash bosh and make things quickly, the depth and the grace of much of the work I looked at. One of the things that struck me the first time I walked around the gallery was the number of portraits that were in it, the number of self-portraits, and that these sort of really spoke to something in me. And so I'm going to get Chris to take us for a little wander round. And this is a good place to start. One of the things I really enjoyed, like from photograph to pastel to all the different media that were used to depict people, there is something really strong in this group. There's a lot of love in this little trio here. And it was one of the ones that I saw and thought, yeah, it shows something about how varied the portraiture is in the exhibition. If we take a little wander somewhere else, if that's okay. What I love about portraits and self-portraits is there's this really long history of doing them. Although, funnily enough, I was reading an article about cave art today, and it spoke about how our ancestors, they would take lots of trouble in drawing huge animals, but when it came to drawing people, they were quite cartoonesque, or they were little stick people. Maybe as time's gone on, we've become more obsessed and interested with ourselves than the world around us, which is so far. So this moment in time that's been captured in the splash here is incredible. And again, all around, there are 4 portraits in this image here. And there's something about making contact with people. There's something about our humanity in that, and that we may be isolated in lockdown, but we're connecting with people, even if it's only seeing them in this 2-dimensional way, or in the 2-dimensional screen of these virtual tours and virtual communications. Can we move on and have a little wander further? This is okay. Portrait. I really loved it. This one, right, really does something I like. There's so much noise in this, and the form is there, but it's kind of hidden. And what I feel is going on here is a thing that I realized quite late on in my own sort of creating, was that if you really push the darkness in a thing, and you really push the lightness, and really push the contrast, something quite exciting happens. I love the scratches. I love the maker's mark that exists within this piece. I think let's carry on, because there's so much to see. We want to go on with making soon, so I'm just going to look at a couple of things in here. If I talk about my own practice in textiles and in art, one of the things I really love doing is making work and taking it outside, or creating work outside and then moving it into an indoors environment. And that was one of the things that caught me about this portrait in a field here, is the fact it's someone in an actual environment, but it's then being shown in a virtual environment. And the idea of you take a photo outside, but you display it inside. There's something about taking the inside out and the outside in that's really perfect. I'm not sure what it's about, but it's something that resonates with my own practice. And if we take a look up at the ceiling, there's always this idea that whatever you make, you can take it somewhere else. And that was the thing that caught me about these 3D forms here, the fact that they could have just been photographs of beautiful flowers, but they were photographs of flowers that then became flowers in their own right. And there's something about, even here, suspended here, these could be taken somewhere else as well. They could be documented somewhere else. They could be turned into something else. There's always somewhere else to go with work. And there's another thing about these as well, which is that the repetition, they've not just been made once, they've been made over and over again. And there's a Norfolk artist, Roger Ackling, who would talk about the inherent energy of repetition, or even the fact that repetition in itself is a form of change. I'll say one more thing before we move on to the actual practical making, and that is that when you repeat something, it's the same component, but you keep building it up and building it up, you begin to create something quite complex. Or if it's not complex, you create the illusion of complexity. And I really like that as a way of working. Keep it simple, do it lots and lots, and then it suddenly becomes something much more than the sum of its parts. Which is what got me thinking about the activity that we might do responding to the exhibition. So if we move out of here, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen with you. Yeah, here we go. I think I'm doing this. What I find interesting about our current situation as well.
So you'll need a piece of paper and a pencil, won't you, Ian, if you haven't got one already?
I'm going to try. So I'm working in a sheet of A4 paper. It's handy to a sheet of paper, a pencil, or a kind of a dry drawing implement, and a mirror, because I'm going to invite you to spend 5 minutes or so creating a self-portrait. In your self-portrait, I would ask that you, as far as possible, you fill the page, and you keep the central line, if you like, of your face, of that to the center of that sheet of paper. If I very quick, I tell you, I'll take a couple of moments to run you through it. So I spent 5 minutes doing this, and it's something I could have done in a minute. It's something I could have done in 2 minutes, but by setting limits, things happen. So when I tend to draw, and I'm not saying that we each have our own styles, but when I tend to draw, I tend to start off quite tentatively. I find some anchor points. I could have gridded it out, but I haven't. I'm just trying to make a quick sketch of myself. So I kind of keep it simple, make it fast, sort of work the edges, find some points. There's some anchor points here, and then as I get them, I then start to add more detail, and the lines become less tentative, more confident. So I start to fill it in. I'm getting a sense that this is me, and I really did look like this a few days ago, I have to say. If not on the outside, on the inside, certainly. And then as I develop, just keep drawing. And the other thing I'm really terrible at, and I cannot help myself from doing, is that often when I'm sketching, I want to smudge things. I want to get a little bit of water, just move stuff around, start to create that sense of contrast, the dark bits and the lighter bits. In this particular sketch, I could have pushed it much more, but I haven't. I've just done it, and I'm just playing around. So you get the sense of what we're doing here. So hopefully you've got your paper and stuff, and that's what we're going for. Okay, so can invite you to take 5 minutes to make a self-portrait, and I'm going to set a little timer here, if I may. And here we go. I'm going to ask a question here, probably for you, Roxanne. Will there
I'm
be a
working on
place
it.
where? Okay, yeah. Will there be a place where we can see what people create?
Ah, yeah, you could send them in. You could email us at inquiries@youngnorfolkarts.org.uk. Why not? That would be great, wouldn't it? I don't know if you can pop them in the comments, if you can do that with a picture. I'm not all that tech savvy, so all of this lockdown stuff doesn't suit me, you know. But email us definitely, or share it on our Instagram, Twitter feeds. Yeah, tag us on Instagram. That would be a good idea. We'd love to see what you've done. I'm trying my best. How are you doing, Beth?
Yeah, it's quite abstract.
No, that's hey, cool.
Sometimes I say that as just an excuse, you know, despite being an art historian who knows that abstract is a thing, you know. So I'm going abstract in this one. Have you got a favourite portrait of all time, Ian?
Well, I'm not sure. Funnily enough, I was just thinking about that. I think, well, in many ways, I like the way that Anthony Gormley uses his body as the vessel for his work. I know we're talking about sculpture and it's three-dimensional, but there is that idea that self-portraiture is a kind of artistic conceit. But at the same time, if you're looking around for a model that you can work with, who's the most obvious person that's going to be close by? You know, it's
exactly.
You yourself. You know, I really like as well the idea that in oil painting, self-portraiture starts really kicked off as a technology. It's interesting how so many things depend on technology, but the way in which the technology that allowed it to have better and better mirrors then allowed for stronger and stronger self-portraiture, to the point
That's true.
where we are now, where it's, you know, we're living in selfie central, aren't we? You know, it's like I'm in a beautiful place, but I'll take a picture of me in that beautiful place rather than just capture the experience of that place.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you the time to slow down, which people have talked about so much in lockdown, does it? If you're sitting and drawing and absorbing a view, then it's taking a snap isn't the same experience, is it?
And the other thing I think about sketching, in particular, whether it's portraiture or something else, is the fact that the experience of doing it really embeds things in your memory. You know, what you're looking at, you actually see, because we don't take the time to look. And if you've ever sat as a model for someone who's doing a drawing or a painting, it can feel quite uncomfortable, that realization that you're being looked at. And we don't spend that much time really looking at people, I think.
No, that's very true.
You know, I've got a door banging. I'm going to go and deal with that. Is that okay for a moment?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, be right back.
I think one of my favourite portraits is Titus by Rembrandt, his son. Just it's quite a young boy, just looking straight at the viewer, with a very dark background and a sort of artist's cap on. Yeah, it's in the Wallace collection in London, and it's one of my favourites.
I think as well the during the pandemic, the idea of self-portrait and portraiture generally has changed with that thing of people wearing masks or face shields. That whole thing around identity and how we project identities kind of changed as well. Because I know if I wear a face mask, I want that to say something about who I am rather than that kind of an anonymous thing. Oh, and there's
the
5
alarm.
minutes. Yeah. How are we doing on portraits?
Not very far.
Oh, very nice. Oh yeah.
Chris has done one in the background there, viewers.
Excellent.
So you can't see him. And so we're all taking part here.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next phase of where we turn the portrait into a boat. And when I thought up this activity, I called it boat race because, well, because it's Cockney rhyming slang for face, and a bit of fun, a connection between two ideas. A connection between two ideas that's responding to what's going on in the gallery. So that's a big part of well, not just the making art, but generally the idea of human beings as creative beings is that we make connections between things and then we turn them into something different, something more. So here we go. I'll take you through this. I will pause it now and again. And let's see how we get on. So the first thing we're going to do is take the portrait and place it face down on the surface. And then the next thing will be to fold it in half, like that, and open it up again. I'll just pause it there. We got that? Okay. And then that middle line is really important because what we're then going to do is take an outer edge and fold it into the middle and do the same the other side. Okay. I'll just pause it there for a moment. Excellent. And then if you've ever made a paper aeroplane, this is nice. So the next thing we do is we take a top corner and fold it down again so it goes to that middle line. Yeah? I'll just pause that a moment, let anyone catch up who may want to. And these are just simple origami folds as well. That's the other thing about it. Like I say, I have a kind of personal motto of keep it simple, make it fast, work the edges. And something happens.
It's a good motto.
Then fold it again. So you can see how it's that classic sort of a paper aeroplane dart thing. And then turn it round and we do exactly the same thing again. Fold once into the middle.
This is where I'm no good because precision is key, and that's why my paper airplanes don't fly.
You're okay. You're okay. And the second one into the middle.
Okay.
And take your time with it. See, what you'll see here is I'm trying to rush it a bit. So I don't quite get that fold right. So I'm busy trying to get it straightened up. See that? Oh, I thought I was doing so well up to this point. And there it is. And then it's done. And I'll just pause that a moment.
So we're doing exactly the same on the other side? That's
right. And the other thing is, I guess this video will be available, won't it?
You can play it back, people. That is the joy of online experiences.
Repeat the process.
So I'm going to move on then. So this is what we got. And then the next thing, lovely, is we then take that and again, on a straight edge, fold it into the middle. See, just like that. Then we're going to turn it round and do the same again. Yeah, on that outside. So there's a kind of perfect symmetry to the whole thing. And this is what we've got. Okay. So the next step is the one that can get tricky, because what we're going to do is we're going to open it up and we're going to turn it inside out. Or is it outside in? I'm not sure. I was thinking to myself, this idea that about working outside, bringing it in, or making work that then is documented or displayed outside, that there's this idea of, and I got myself wondering, is there a difference between something being inside out or outside in?
That is a philosophical question of the day.
It's too deep for today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn our boat. I say what we need to be careful of when we turn it inside out is not to tear the outer edges, not to tear the prow. But it doesn't matter too much if we do, because it's a 5-minute thing. We could make 100 of these in a day if we really wanted. So we got it. So what we do is we fold it back. We get right inside like that. And I'm just going to stop it. So right inside we've got a grip, and then we're going to turn it inside out.
Well, I'm not sure I'm doing it. Not sure I'm doing it. I'm unfolding it, Ian.
Okay, I'm just going to pause that, and I'm going to step back a little.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the crucial, one of the things that I know from my own experience of where at the point at which it doesn't work, is that this step here of folding into the middle, that final fold, is really important in making it work.
Okay.
But actually, every step's really important. You have to turn all the corners. Okay, so having done that,
I'm going over my lines.
right, and then we're going to reach inside. So even inside that very first fold, yeah.
Oh, I've got it. I think I've got it. Tell us, people, how you're doing at home. We'd love to hear in the comments below. Have you turned your boat inside out? Ha-ha!
Excellent.
Small things. Feel a sense of triumph.
Yeah, and there I'm in a boat. I could send that off sailing. I had a thought that if I used oil pastels and lots of oil pastels on it, it would probably survive quite a long time in the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll do that. I'm going to stop the share there. And I'd like to show you a couple things. So that idea of there being an inherent energy and repetition, that we get things, is good. And then also that it's a form of change. So a couple of things that I've done. I don't know if you can see, this is a wall piece of sketches that created. And that's the thing, I mean, each sketch, by the way, I just photocopied these out of a sketchbook that I'd been working on. But also the architectural possibilities. I'm stepping back because this is this may fall to pieces. But the idea of creating towers as well.
Ooh la la, you've been busy, Ian.
Well, actually, I've not been that busy. Like I say, what I did is I found an old sketchbook and I basically photocopied all the portraits that were in there. So, and then stuck them together and created some columns. And then, of course, there's a possibility you've made a boat. You could populate that boat with, I don't know, little models or whatever. Anyway, that's that's my session. And like I say, there's always other places that you can take things.
That was lovely, Ian. Thanks so very much. I very much enjoyed making my boat. Did you, Beth?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe we'll see these like floating down the Wensum later today. We'll know.
I don't want to take responsibility for that. Sorry.
The paper litter in the Wensum. So I'm gonna talk to Chris in my ear now and ask any questions on the comments coming in. So I hear you're saying some nice things, but you haven't got any questions yet. If you have a burning question, now is the time to ask it. In the meantime, we are going to ask each other some questions because it's been a great time for us to make the exhibition and to make these boats, and it's made us think about all sorts of things. So, Beth, you showed us some of your favourite images in the exhibition there. What's been your top highlight? You said that working collaboratively has been great. What's been your highlight of curating and selecting the works?
I think for me, I remember still when you sent us the Dropbox of everybody who had submitted into the exhibition, and I was just amazed by diversity in the submissions and so many different types of mediums which I've never explored or thought about. And also, even though there were so many different types of work, there seemed to be such common themes, which kind of felt like, especially during lockdown, it's quite easy to feel quite alone. But through creating the exhibition, I definitely feel like through creating it, but also seeing the exhibition come together and all the work, I feel like it's given it quite a community feel, which has been great.
That's so true. And we should be clear with you, the audience, that those themes of angst and dreams or surreal and hope, we didn't ask for those themes. What we asked young people for was, tell us about your here and now. That might be in your mind, it might be the walks you go on, what you're experiencing right now here in lockdown in these strange times. And so they sent us those things, didn't they, Beth? And they seemed naturally to fall into those categories of the whole process we've all been through during lockdown, that rhythm we've all been in community with, been united by. So I had exactly the same feeling, actually. That was really lovely. Did that come across, Ian, when you first had a look through the gallery spaces?
It did indeed. The universality of the experience we all had, but then those individual takes, and how even if you'd asked everyone to submit a piece of work on a single idea and said, I don't know, make a portrait, if you'd actually said that, it would have still happened. Everything would have been so different to each other. And like I say, the thing that blows me away is the quality of the work that was submitted, and then furthermore that distillation into the exhibition. It's amazing. It's really, I'm quite jealous of the capacity, within Norfolk and the creativity here.
Yeah, me too. It certainly made me want to make work, I have to say, which isn't my normal practice. So if it's inspired lots of us, then it's done a job beyond what it was originally intended for, which was to inspire young people to create the work in the first place. But it's all a domino effect, isn't it, creativity?
Oh, absolutely. And that thing, it's also one of the things I kind of like saying is the idea that we can feel good when we create things, and if you like, but it's a really basic human thing to be creative. It's partly how we've managed to evolve and get where we are. But so much stuff around us, we're just ideas people had, or ideas they got from the ideas that other people might have had, and then created an original touch on. And that thing of we create in order to survive, but there's something more. We create to express ourselves. Again, maybe it's that idea of that's the inside out. Maybe there's the inner and the outer worlds, and in the creative act, we bridge those things, I think. Maybe that doesn't make too much sense.
No, that does, and we find those bridges between ourselves, don't we? Because it is a building thing, and not to feel isolated and to reach out in all those ways in times like this has been absolutely essential. And I think you choosing Boo Green, who I know has had to stay at home a lot more than many of us, because of just her situation and where she is. It was a real poignant choice for how we've all dealt with the situation, how she has, and she's certainly inspired all of us, and now hopefully others, to make some origami. Why not?
Well, so I'm going to say something else around that if I can. The nice thing about origami and working with people, I'm a big fan of working with cheap stuff as well. You know, what's readily at hand. Paper's ready. That's why collage and montage, I think, are so wonderful, because they're at hand and they're cheap to do and cheap to work with. And there's a great Brian Eno quote in some ways that in some ways that the more money that you spend in the creation of something, the more normal it kind of becomes. And in some ways, the constraints and the limitations of working with things, that's the place where something brand new will happen. That's, I think, really, well, it's really important to me. And also, as a bit of a cheapskate, it's also another justification for the keep it simple, make it fast, you know, sort of idea.
Well, it's a feel-good factor thing, isn't it? I think when you make something out of nothing, there's not only that creativity that you've brought yourself and relished in and experienced, but there's that added extra of knowing that you didn't spend any money and you saved the environment. I mean, how, you know, all those three things. What a trio!
Yeah. Or you spent £10,000 on an experiment that went badly wrong.
Yeah. There's a lovely image that makes me think of, actually, it's the Rainbow Landscape by the very famous artist Rubens, and he did it for himself, which is unusual. Normally you'd be commissioned by somebody, to, especially a great artist like him, and it was at the height of his career where he was doing fantastically well, and he moved to a new house and he was just moved to paint what was outside his door, which was quite a large amount of land, actually, and then of course a rainbow going over the top. And it's quite poignant for our times with all the rainbows, and also looking out of your window to paint something. But he painted it on a collection of bits of old board, so if you turn it around the back, it's not sort of a spotless canvas or piece of oak. It's loads of bits and pieces that have been meshed together. And I think that says a similar thing to what.
No, and it's richer for that, isn't it? I think
all the more, and the fact that it was personal for himself. And we said to young people when we put the call out, you know, don't think about being judged. Do it for yourself, and do it because you want to and because you need to, and great things will come.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that there were so many artworks inspired or engaged with nature, because I think we're so lucky in Norfolk that we have so much open space, and some of the artworks also seem to be quite activist in nature and how we can like readdress their power balances between us, especially Bentley Fox's, which has 3 doors, which he's made and he's positioned outside in nature, as if like you're opening your door into nature rather than into your house, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and we tried to put those all together in hope, didn't we? So that the end of the story, in a way, was that connection to nature, which we hope to maintain, because we've all developed, many of us, a stronger connection to it, haven't we? And I'd love to maintain that in my life, but also this need to make things different, and that's why we collected them all together in hope to kind of leave you with a bit of a positive feeling when you leave the gallery space. So I think we'll wrap it up there, team. Maybe I'm going to talk to Chris in my ear now and maybe say we had a vague plan to play one of the videos, so we might leave you with Snail's Pace by Ellie Reeves, if that's at all possible. He's saying absolutely fine. So that's great. So we're going to leave you with one of the other films that we were submitted, so that you can enjoy that. But please do go to our gallery space at youngnorfolkarts.org.uk/virtual gallery, and you can explore the gallery at your own pace, as it were. I'd say a huge thank you to Beth Gaffney and to Ian Brownlie, and to the whole Young Norfolk Arts team who have made this happen. A huge shout out to Millie Kirby, who is the coordinator behind this madness, and she's had 3 screens going and been making this festival happen. There are still a few things you can go and see, so jump over to our website at youngnorfolkarts.org.uk, and we hope you enjoyed your boat and the experience. So until next time.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
I'm running round and round Groveland's lake. On each baking rotation, a navy bike tries to fly and take me on her handlebars. Joe Whiley has anchored my ears to the earth and tells me I love running. A man's tomato back is eating the sun. A child peels their second tangerine, then proceeds to his shoulders. Our ducks are eating old ladies' eyes. I would prefer to engulf them whole for fear of leaving them lonely. Green grass grows wild from our scalp. I'm running over bodies and breathing them in and going nowhere.